Because if you have a great team, you can go anywhere with the boat. If you have a terrible team, the apartment's probably going to fail. Like any other business, you have to have a great team, put the right people in the right seat.
Welcome to the Path to Passive podcast, where we talk about building wealth and empowering lifestyle through commercial real estate investing for tech professionals. I always wish that other tech professionals reaching financial freedom had documented their journey along the way, so I'm doing it for the rest of us. Join us as we explore stories, many failures, and lessons learned along the way. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. My next guest is someone that was in a shared community. I knew when I saw his story, he was someone I had to talk to. It's such an interesting background. I think you're going to think so as well. He's someone that has over 25 years of maritime experience, including new builds, refits, project management, and yacht management. He is a licensed U.S. Coast Guard master of 1,600 gross tons, 3,000 international all oceans, with a background in IT and a strong mechanical background in maritime, transportation, and heavy equipment. In his career in cruising includes Mediterranean, Gulf Coast, including Mexico, Great Lakes, Pacific, Alaska to Panama, Atlantic Canada to Florida, Caribbean, Bahamas, and South China Sea on board vessels of many types and sizes. Of course, this is a real estate podcast. We're here to talk about that too. And he has been a multifamily real estate investor for the past few years. He's invested in multifamily apartment syndications in Ohio, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and joint ventures in Florida. He also runs a monthly meetup group, Yachtie Real Estate Investors in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and Stewart, in collaboration with SoFlo Real Estate Network and Real Estate Queens. Scott is also a mentor of Legasea, a social platform developed to seeing the maritime industry at its best. Scott, thank you so much for being a guest on Path to Passive today.
Well, thanks for having me on. When you talk about me so fondly, it sounds like I've done a few things.
Well, you have, man. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to and how have you got here?
What I've been up to recently, I've started to get into e-commerce. So we're starting a e-commerce fund, and we're also I'm raising for a fund, multifamily fund for Texas and Arizona properties. It's Greystone multifamily income fund, and really excited about this next year. 2024 is going to be really good for a lot of things in multifamily.
Yeah, firing all cylinders already. Talk to us a bit about the real estate background. Now, you talked about the funds and the e-com stuff. I'm sure our listeners are going to be interested in hearing about that too. But tell us a little bit about these syndications that you have been in and some of the real estate experience so far.
Well, so far, I've been involved in some joint ventures, which is basically, it's a little different from syndications. It's just basically we're all active partners in the deals. I've done a couple of those, and mostly in Florida, one in around the Daytona area, 13 unit, and we've done some other stuff. We closed on a 65 unit last year, which was in North Carolina. That was a syndication, which is I'm a co-GP on that one, which I also am an LP on that one also, because I like to make sure that usually my interests are the same as the investors. And I've focused the last year or so on basically capital raise and investor relations. I've been involved with a few deals last year that a couple deals did not go through, but sometimes they say the best deals are the ones that you didn't do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. This could be a blessing in disguise of not getting to those ones for sure. So mostly multifamily is what I'm hearing. Is that about right?
Yes, but I just did finish up with a storage deal. I was helping them on some new development self-storage in North Carolina and San Antonio. Those are, I think they're just about to close up there, but I liked it because it was new development and self-storage. It was something that was kind of new to me, but I really liked the deal and the team. And so it was great to work with those guys.
Awesome. So multifamily, self-storage, trying to continue to get educated in the space and also just be active in general. And Are there other assets that you and the team are also looking at besides self-storage?
For the most part, we're sticking to the multifamily model. That we like to stick to, light value add stuff, but seems to be a little more aggressive, larger value add stuff coming up. So we're taking a look at that, and we like Texas and the Southeast. Also working with a developer group that has a lot of private equity, and they'll bring a large portion of the equity anywhere in the Southeast, 200 units plus. So that's what we're mostly looking at, A, B, or C. It can be repositioning or, light value add. But the reason why they got into that is because development, the margins are a little are small right now. Even though they're still developing, they want to diversify into value add so they don't have to hold people's capital as long. They can do the value add and hopefully refinance and give them back their capital and keep them in and keep the deals moving a lot quicker.
Got it. So the joint venture, is that partnering with an operator mainly? Is that how you mean that from the joint venture perspective?
Oh, the joint ventures, we're all active partners in it, because if you're not an active partner, basically it would basically be a syndication or
right,
or a security. If there, you'd be a limited partner if you weren't active. But I am partnered. One of my partners has a property management company, and she helps manage a lot of the segments of the property. But that one is there's not a huge amount to do, as we've redone all the units and redone the roof, painted it, and it's running very well. And we've had a few things we've had to address here and there, but no majors with that one.
Okay, so some projects were around the new land development, but it's that obviously can take a lot of time to build up. And I think you were talking about the keeping the capital, but also margins as well. And so that's why there are some projects on the value add for multifamily as well, right?
Yes, because the value add, there's a quicker turnaround time, and a lot of these value add projects, you can buy them and they're already cash flowing from day one. So you can keep just do the value adds as you're turning over the units, or do them in segments, or do them in stages, so that it doesn't disrupt and you have a huge amount of vacancies. So it can be planned out very well to where if you execute properly, it'll be like clockwork, and you won't have too much vacancy, and it'll keep the investors happy, keep everyone happy in those.
Yeah, outstanding. Getting returns and cash a lot faster. So, and then finally, you said around some of the self-storage as well, that those are, I think you said that one's just getting closed up too. And so it's sort of a similar model with acquiring something that is already producing, right?
Well, those are new developments, so they're shovel-ready projects, so there wouldn't be any cash flow until they were built. So that's going to be a minimum 9 months to build the facility, and then a year to 2 years, closer to 2 years probably, for to lease up. But those will be managed by CubeSmart once they're finished, and then CubeSmart will potentially buy them at the end. So there's kind of an exit partner on those. There's an option for that. So that could be potentially really good.
Outstanding. So talk to me a little bit then about what you guys are thinking about for a buy box for additional assets, because I hear what you're saying about the builds and also the multifamily. Certainly, is there some what's the current buy box that you're thinking about?
Well, for the fund, we're looking at in Texas and Arizona, mostly Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Phoenix, and the secondary markets there. We're looking at 100 units plus, value add, 1970s and up, C plus to B class mostly, because those are, those, whether the economy goes in whatever direction, those seem to hold the test of time. And those are the ones that are reasonably priced on the rents so that people can stay in them. And the lead time on turning over those are not as bad as some of the other larger projects. And with the other group I'm working with, it's 200 units plus A, B, and C value add, and they'll do up to repositioning, and that's from Texas through the Southeast. And they have
Okay.
the group I'm working with. They have property management, construction, marketing, administration. They can do the lease ups and everything. So they have everything soup to nuts. And one of the partners is a commercial mortgage broker as well, so he can do all the financing and everything else. So it's just a matter of working with the right operators on those.
Yeah, right operators and also definitely the right underwriters and making sure that debt is correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we talk about, there was sort of two different buy boxes, so to speak, the 100 plus, but then the 200 plus. When you're talking about doing the value add for the listener base, when we're talking value add, it's making sure that there's different ways that we can increase income, right, and then decrease expenses as the overall business plan. Is it just the normal value add type of increasing the income of looking if you can add additional parking spaces, coverage, laundry, like things like that, doing renovations inside, and what are some of the things just to explain it for the listeners
Well,
on?
yes, it would include all of those, premium parking, laundry, other services, pet services, and stuff like that could be important. But a lot of those are property specific. It just depends on what's available and what works in that market. If you're offering a lot of high range amenities and it's kind of a C minus area, maybe potentially they may not have those things, and a lot of people may not spend the extra money for it, so it may not be worth it. So you really have to kind of evaluate it based on the market and the comps in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to make sure that the people that are living in those neighborhoods and communities get served by the right types of amenities. So there's a good match.
Yes, and you want to make sure keep the tenants happy, because the tenants are the customer. They're the ones that make everything happen. If they're happy, they'll stay a long time, and they'll keep the place nice, and they'll want to live in a nice place. And that's all our main goal is, because it's all for one, it's all about the tenant, the residents, and all about the investors. You keep the residents happy, the investors will be happy.
I love that you mentioned that, especially being customer focused. A lot of the listeners, people, investors I've talked to and colleagues, especially in tech, it is always about the customer, being customer centric, customer focused, et cetera. And, just reminding, us and getting dialed into that the tenants, the community members, the people that live there are the customer as well, and thinking about what they need, what they like, their preferences, et cetera, is a really good frame. So thanks for that call out. Okay, so developments, self-storage, and then the different buy boxes for multifamily, investing in the South. What you mentioned different funds as well, ecom fund, and I think in offline we also talked about that being a mix of real estate and ecom too, right?
Yes, that is it would basically be a fund of funds, and the end goal is to offset the gains from the e-commerce stores with multifamily real estate and other parts of real estate. There may be some industrial and warehouses and stuff like that may help to vertically integrate the fund, things like that, where you could get cost segregations, and accelerated depreciation, which is still, if your listeners don't know, is that you can depreciation the IRS will give you a certain amount of percentage every year in a tax rebate, as you call it, or depreciation, a certain amount every year. Commercial properties, 35 years. Residential properties, 27 and a half. So you can now take, I believe, 60% this year upfront after you purchase the property. But that may change. There's a bill going through the House that may have gone through the House that may kick it back up to 100% for the next couple of years, which, if you have passive losses and stuff like that, it can offset a huge portion of your of your tax
Tax liability
tax
and fee.
liability.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I really want to break some of this down, but I want to give you plenty of time to talk about some of the fun details as well. But I will say, up until some of the groups that I'm in now, and learning about multifamily before, learning about funds and fund of funds, like
Yeah.
these were new concepts. And I know that you just you rattle off because it's the world that you live in right now. But talk to us a little bit about as basic as just what a fund is and what the fund to fund model looks like. And then we'll kind of go from there.
Well, a fund is basically just basically it's just an investment that usually it can have one or multiple assets in it, and you choose it, based on what their strategy is and what types of things they have in there. And a fund of funds is basically like, if people are probably familiar with Vanguard, you basically give them your money and they pick the assets. That it can be, usually it's stocks, bonds, securities, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But a fund of funds is basically, you give your funds to someone and then they choose the assets to invest in, or they spread them across a bunch of them. And a lot of times you can choose, which ones you want to invest in because of what they're, the opportunities that they have.
Perfect. Outstanding. Thank you. And so fund is just some place that you can put your money into. And so just like you were talking about with other Vanguards, et cetera, et cetera. And then in this case, instead of stocks or bonds, the assets that we're talking about here being real estate, your fund would invest in other funds that hold assets in real estate. And in this case, something like e-commerce, right?
Yes, we would invest directly into properties and real estate, and we would also invest into other funds.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so talk to me why having e-commerce stores and the blend of e-commerce store and real estate makes for such a good pair to invest in together.
Well, because you can defer a lot of your tax liability in the fund. And a lot of these funds now, if you have multiple assets, you only have to file one K1, which is a K1 is what you get from the fund to you, so you can file your taxes, whether it be there's multiple assets in there or not. You'll just get one instead of, because each time you invest in a property or a syndication, you get a K1 from each one. And if you're invested into multiple of them, it can really stretch out your tax. You're waiting till October to do your taxes. Plus, you will get a lot of passive losses from the real estate, and it's all done in the fund. The gains from the e-commerce are quite high, and e-commerce is really on its really just in its infancy. Basically, it's only, I think, 10 or 11% of the market right now, and there's a lot of room to grow. So that's why we're doing it, and we just kind of want to offer people some other things that they might be interested, rather than just stocks or just real estate. And we just want people to know that these things are available, and then there's always other options that are quite aggressive and can help them, get to the goals that they want financially.
Yeah, 100%. So, again, we have from the apartments or the multifamily perspective, each of the different tenants, those being customers of that community. But in this case, what you're talking about is the investor being the customer as well. And so from this perspective, giving the opportunity for having a fund where there's e-commerce stores and real estate, and like you were talking about, having just one K1 after getting that from the fund, then you have less paperwork, less administrative overhead to look at. And I know, being invested in a couple different areas too, it's the first time you get that back, it's like, wait, I have to do, how do I say, put, like you were saying, what's that?
You have to file this with my CPA or my accountant.
Yes. Right. And you have to extend it,
Yes.
the return for later. And so getting all this paperwork is a headache, right?
And since I've been invested in real estate, before I always had my taxes filed by the 15th through my
Right.
And my personal ones were April 15th, and then my corporate ones, because I've been self-employed for 15, 18 years now on the yachts. They didn't, that's something that I didn't realize, that the K1s don't necessarily come on time, because a lot of things go into nothing. It's not that they're trying to delay anything. It's just there's a lot of things that go into doing the accounting and bookkeeping for a multifamily property, much like any other business. But things are delayed, and each group is different, and something might happen that they have to deal with it. They don't get out on time. It happens.
Yeah. And, was it a surprise for you? Maybe the getting the first K1, having to extend your personal?
No, because I had talked to. I'm a big proponent of putting yourself around people that they're doing the things that you want to be doing. And so I always just ask them a lot of questions, like, if is this normal? And they're like, well, lucky if you get it by summer, because it's a big group. They got 50 properties. That's just one of many. They have an accounting team. They just did a giant cost segregation on all the property, 4 or 5 properties. So it's
Mhm.
probably going to take a little bit for you to get yours. And I was like, okay, as long as it's, it was asked another investor that was involved in the same property. And I was like, that gave me a level of comfort that, okay, I'm not getting strung around. The communication was quite good with that group. So that's what was really good.
Well, you're smarter than me. Before my first investment, I did all my checking on checking all the people and everything way before. I'm like, okay, this looks good, this looks sound, and then I'll figure out what happens after that, But it's a great call out. Don't be surprised for the listeners getting that later on, certainly, and be like Scott. Ask more questions than I did. So, all right, cool. So this fund has e-com stores and it has real estate. Or the real estate that's in these funds, is it still? Could it vary from the multifamily?
It can right now. That's what we're focusing on, and that's what since we're just starting, that's what we know the most. So we're going to keep it simple and stick with that. And
Nice.
The a large portion of my network is multifamily real estate, so it just makes sense to stay in that and
Yep.
see if we can help a lot of other people fund their deals and stuff like that. So that's the idea.
Outstanding. And then on the e-commerce side, if I remember correctly, we're talking Shopify. Is that right?
Yes, it's basically a Shopify platform. You own the store, you own whatever it sells, you own the LLC. But how most of them are set up, if they have products, for the most part, you don't hold any inventory per se. It's all just kind of basically you're taking orders first, and then drop shipping the order
Mm-hmm.
to the customer.
Cool.
Or
Yeah.
if it's digital products, you don't really even have anything of that. It just goes straight out. You're just
Perfect.
paying to keep the products held on a database. That's basically
Yeah. That's super cool. I mean, everyone has bought online products, online courses, online something,
yeah.
and not having inventory makes things so much more stable as long as you can continue to grow your funnel and
As
sales,
long
right?
as it's the way it's structured is that it's based on mostly the ad spend. So for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, it's once a product starts dipping, start searching on other products and stuff like that. It's just kind of in a nutshell. For the most part, that's how it works. I mean, that's kind of how most businesses work. But like your large conglomerates like Walmart's, Amazon, they just have everything
Yeah.
available all the time, and these are much more niche type stores.
Super cool. And so we have the fund. It's got real estate, mostly multifamily. It's the business you guys know, makes the sense, right? Stay in the lane, so to speak. And then these types of e-commerce stores. And so these together in the fund and that blend of those different assets and the cash flow they produce is what the investors can rely on.
Yes, and we're just it's just in its infancy right now. We're just getting it started. We just decided to start it here in January, get it going. So it should be a little bit, probably in next couple of months, it should be up and running. It's going to take a little bit, but it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is exciting. And I mean, there's going to be a bunch of listeners listening here, but also just getting exposed to that idea of not only funds, fund of funds, but just knowing that these type of funds exist of, hey, e-commerce stores plus real estate. So that's why I peeled back the onion with you so much, because, like this is what you're living, but not everyone even knows the fund of funds is a thing.
Yeah. And then, the thing is, I've had people say to me, well, e-commerce, you got Amazon and Walmart and these guys. And I said, well, we're not trying to be them. If we get a tiny percentage of the market, we'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a big market for sure.
Yeah,
especially
it's
if you're
huge and growing. Yeah.
Solving problems for a specific customer base and grow that.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to talk about that fund, just real estate stuff in general?
No, I think we covered for the most part what I've been doing, and what we're working on now. It's a lot of great things are happening and coming up right now.
Yeah, no kidding. How did you get started in real estate anyway?
Well, it's kind of I kind of started just like a lot of people. I bought my first house in like 2002, and we were married, and as our family grew, we had a couple of kids. We moved, and we rented that other house, and then we'd planned on doing one, buying another house every so often, and then moving up like a lot of people. And but I had a friend of mine. We were talking one time. We were just kind of hanging around, having some drinks at the beach, and he told me that he had bought and sold a 46 unit in Houston, Texas, and made like a large sum of money. And I said to him, I said, well, you can do that? And he goes, yeah, you can do that. I did it. Anybody can do it. And so that kind of was my light bulb moment. And after that, I started just learning as much as I possibly could about it. And then, went to a few meetups, and the first few meetups I went to, probably about 10 of them, they all funneled me to the back of the room and tried to sell me something, and phone call, a course, a book. And I kind of got discouraged, but I decided just go to one more and just see where it is. And if not, I was going to re-strategize something, because I had to learn more about it. And then ended up going to one that I ended up meeting my future partner, and she and I get along. We're still involved. We're still in the property in Daytona, which, the meetups, which eventually ended up with me starting my own meetup as well. And that's been expanding. That's been great.
Yeah, it's wild, right? Just one more go at it is what you needed to make that next step to learn stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of the one more, that Ed Milet theory, the power of one more, one phone call, one text, one letter, one meeting, one meetup, one network away. Just do one more. I love it, because anytime I'm getting stuck, I just do one more.
And except in the case of single family homes, no more one more. It's only multifamily home here.
Well, I probably will do one more. I mean, I probably will buy one more, probably, but probably won't buy a bunch of them.
Yeah. So you found yourself sort of in that accidental landlord perspective of buying the house, buying another one, renting out the one you were at before, talking to your buddy on the beach, which makes perfect sense after a super cool day of yachting, no doubt. And what are we gonna do, dude? Yeah. Well, you can do this multifamily thing.
Yeah.
So that was the aha moment. Awesome.
Yeah, definitely was, and I haven't turned back since. It's been met so many great people doing so many really positive things. So the way I look at it every day is just the beginning.
For sure. This is a question I always like to ask, because I think there's, that light bulb moment, that epiphany stage, so to speak, of you can do that, is like,
Yeah.
And so, getting exposed to that, and your buddy talking to you about, apartments and multifamily and investing, and, the whole model, which, for those listening, we won't go into right now, but I've got other episodes on. But for you, Scott, just what was, if you can remember, was there any intimidation factor? Was there any emotional aspects of like, holy cow, that's much bigger, from going single family to multifamily? How did you kind of get through that, if there was?
Well, all of it was uncomfortable and awkward. And a lot of times it still is today, but I just keep doing it because I know that at the end of it, it's going to be great, because the more people I see doing all these other things. Another thing that my partner, she said one time, she said, well, if they can do it, I can do it. It's like, well, okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's, it's all about really just being outside of your comfort zone. Cause if you just get comfort and complacent, you're going to be in the same place in 10 years, 5 years, or what have you. But if you at least try, at least you took a shot at it, if you fail, it just means you got to do it again.
Yeah, and one more shot, and one more again.
Yeah. That was David Goggins. He said it's not a failure; it just means you got to do it again.
That's right.
Because there was a kid that was in the Navy SEALs that I met recently in San Diego. He said, "Yeah, in the Navy SEAL training, there's doing it correctly and doing it again."
That's where the learning's at, man. So speaking of all the experience of being in uncomfortable situations and, just continuing to, keep taking the next step, talk to us about this U.S. Coast Guard master of 1,600 gross tons and 3,000 international oceans. What does that mean?
Well, basically that means that's the 1,600 tons is the U.S. tonnage, and 3,000 tons is the international tonnage. It's basically, you would think that it's the weight, but it's actually the amount of cargo it can handle. So it's there's a specific formula that they use, and I won't go into the boring details of it, but it's based on the cargo. It's kind of a rather older formula, but it took me probably 10 years to get, or 8 years to get to that level.
Wow.
But I kind of did it just like a lot of people. I learned on the job training. Some people go to maritime school and learn, but I went, I did on the job training, went to school, went back to work, and it has brought me to a lot of places in the world that I probably never would have been. I went to China and finished a new build there. We actually finished the new build in Florida, but was there in the shipyard in China.
A new build?
Yeah, it was a new yacht.
A new yacht build?
Yes.
Okay.
And, it was there, and it was, I won't go into too many details, but it was, we ended up going into arbitration with the Chinese shipyard company, and it was a big mess, but we ended up getting a decent settlement for the owner. So it was a win at the end. It was the best and worst job I've ever had.
Got it. So what sounds like some stories, and then congratulations. I mean, that's, anything that takes that long and dedication to go get into, especially on, I honestly have no idea what that even looks like, but I'm certainly excited to do some Googling after this and plug some of these in. But talk to me. I've been on the yacht before, but I have no idea what the day-to-day for a yacht captain actually looks like. So what if there is such a thing as the day-to-day, or even just share one of the days? What does that look like?
Generally on the day-to-day, it's much like any other, like a lot of management jobs, but you're doing a lot of different tasks. You're, for the most part, for me, it's just like the thing why I really like the multifamily real estate and syndications is because it's all really about the team and building a great team. Because if you have a great team, you can go anywhere with the boat. If you have a terrible team, the apartment's probably going to fail. Like any other business, you have to have a great team, put the right people in the right seat. On the day to day, we're all very, we have, depending on what the schedule is, we could be underway, we could be at the dock or doing routine maintenance, or we could be in the shipyard doing a full on refit, which a refit is pretty much just like a full rehab on an apartment. We're doing a lot of larger maintenance capital expenditure projects, redoing the air conditioning, rebuilding the engines, power plants, stuff like that. For the most part, my job mostly entails managing the heads of the department. And we usually have, for the interior, you have the chief stewardess. For the engineering department, you have the chief engineer. For the deck, you have the first officer. And for the galley, you have the chef. So basically, you have to be on the same page with everyone. Everyone has to have a clear plan, and that comes, from the top down. The buck stops with me. Anything that happens on the boat, while may not be my fault, it is my problem and it is my responsibility. So take that very seriously, especially when it comes to safety.
Yep.
We for the most part, when I'm going onto the boat next week, we'll probably be going to Jamaica, and we'll be standing by there. Depending on where the charters are, we might be either going to the Bahamas or to the Caribbean. So for the most part, we basically focus on the main project at hand. Like if we need to get to the Caribbean, we focus on everything we do to get to there and pick up the guests. Or, when the guests come on, that's guest mode. That's
yep.
You deal with everything, and it's all about the guests. They're the customers. They're paying to be there. So It's 100% what they want and everything that they need within reason, as long as they're not putting themselves or anyone else in harm's way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love that from the ownership perspective, like working with everyone too, everyone being on the same page. It is, health, safety first. I want to make sure I'm sensitive to, your time here, but I also would be remiss if I didn't ask, what is something that is the most, just, if you could briefly share something that is, the most fun about being a yacht captain.
Well, the most fun for me is being at sea. I think, I know for me that when I'm at sea, I have like this great level of clarity, because I really only have one task, and that's to get everyone on board there safely. Mm-hmm. And whether the weather's good, bad, or indifferent, if I'm outside and the weather's a little rough, all I really have to do is get everyone there safely. And when you can think about things in your life that way, it makes things a lot easier. And plus, just being on the water, that's the best for me. I'm at peace there.
100%. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And like you were saying, it's like being part of that team, sort of like being part of the co-GP team and an ownership team for real estate and investment. So, it sounds like all of those, everything that you said goes hand in hand so well about what makes you and your team such great operators and such great a team in general for real estate, being on the same page, thinking about the operations, thinking about what has to be done, taking care of, the details as well. What is one or two things that also come to mind that maybe you flex the most in with real estate that you've taken from Maritime?
It's the same thing is, the team and just networking, getting out and meeting the right people and putting the right people in the right place. And, there's a lot of times in real estate where I'm not the lead person, which is good. I know what a good team is, and I know what being a great team member is. So we all have to have the common goal, and we all work for the same. And the main thing is clear communication. Make sure that everyone has specific instructions. and that it's okay for them to make a mistake. Just go back over it and say, hey, maybe I didn't communicate that correctly with you. Let's go back over it and make sure that everyone's on the same page so that we can all go ahead. Or maybe something happens, that was unforeseen. Then you stop and just kind of regroup, communicate again, let everyone know what the new plan is. Communication is key with everything.
Perfect. Communication is key. I love what you said about knowing what a good team looks like.
Yes.
And also having that shared vision, and also having that vision in general from, where you need to go. Right. And I can imagine, having, clear mind as well, just having that space. And so I know you do some other things too. You mentioned David Goggins.
Yeah.
It's always a good one. I've seen you're a fan of Wim Hof,
Yes.
as well. I think we've also talked about some of the, Dan Sullivan books.
Yes.
What is one or two things that keeps your brain in top shape, keeps you focused, and keeps you at that performance you need to be for not only yachting, but also for real estate and for your, for everyone involved?
Regardless of where I am, I do the breath work, whether it's Wim Hof or some of the other. I do Wim Hof just about every day, and some other breath work that just gives you clarity, which kind of blends right into some meditation, which is just keeps you in tune with everything. Because there's a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, where they have these things called savers, where it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, writing and scribing, or reading and scribing. Sorry, but you don't have to necessarily do all those, because your morning routine can end up taking a long time. But just do a few of those things just to give you some kind of mental clarity, because it'll give you, just maybe that boost that you need. You might wake up not feeling great or what have you, but the breath work really does wonders for me. It's given me a lot of clarity, and because I've exercised most of my life, and I think I've always done some type of fitness, because I guess it was just kind of my coping mechanism, whether things are good, bad, or indifferent. I always felt off if I didn't do some type of exercise.
Yeah. No pun intended, but having that anchor for yourself to stay in, right? Sorry,
pun intended. The ice baths are good too. But living in Florida, we don't, unless I ice it down, it's a little difficult to do. But
yeah, you don't got that ice bath water. You got that bath water. Come on.
Bath. Yeah.
Yeah, ice baths will definitely make you breathe right. That's for sure.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, outstanding. And I know one of the things you're also very much into, we've talked, you're a lot into service, which I absolutely love. And, Legasea is part of that. And you mentioned the meetup as well, but, talk to us about Legasea. Where's your heart at from there?
Well, I started the meetup because I didn't, mainly because, like I discussed before, those 10 or so meetups I went to, and they were just trying to sell you something. And when I went to my partner, her meetup, everyone was just kind of talking about what they were doing and there to meet other people and connect. And I said, well, I should probably do this too, because there's a lot of people on the boats that don't know that these things are available, because I didn't know a lot of these things were available. And I'm still learning about all more and more things that are, options that are available for everyone. And that's really my main focus, is to make sure that, people don't have to invest with me necessarily or anything, but I do want them to know that these things are out there, that, that's not, whatever's going on, it's not the end of the world. There's always options. There's always things out there that you can do, and just seek out these people that are doing these things, just keep networking, network. Might just be that next person you meet tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah, for sure. There's, it's oversaid, but I see new and, more and more distinctions of your network is your net worth, but also it's just, I don't know. I need to come up with a better one, but your network is definitely that knowledge base for sure. right?
Well, that, and your network also is your quality of life too.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily you, because you meet so many interesting people and so many, if you get pigeonholed or you get the blinders on where you only around people that think like you, then it's hard to see any kind of other solutions that could be right there in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Awareness for sure. And then legacy. This is it's about mentorship.
I was fortunate enough to, when I first started on the yachts, that I had one person in particular, and then a few people after that that kind of took me in and showed me the ropes, so to speak, pun intended.
Awesome.
Showed me a lot of things and how to do what everything entails on working on the yachts and everything else. And so I just I've been lucky enough to have a lot of great crew members and team members with me, and I've had, I think, five first officers or mates that are now captains. So I
Awesome.
want to pass that on to the next generation, the younger crowd. I want to make sure that they know that they can do all that stuff if they want to, because I was lucky enough to have people that were in my life that brought me up through the ranks. So that's what legacy is all about, is just helping the next generation, just to make us all better.
Yeah.
I think we've come a long way in the last 20 plus years, and we can do better, and we can go even further.
Outstanding. Yeah. Not only in industry, but also getting people when they're younger too, to share about real estate, et cetera, both sides, and the personal improvement. Cause they say new level, new devil, which I absolutely agree with, right? There's always a new challenge and thing to get through. So,
Yeah.
whether it's through legacy or whether it's through, meetups, when and there's of course investors of all levels that you're always networking with, different perspectives, just like you talk about too. But when you have, maybe new investors that come to the group and they're asking you, Scott, this real estate thing, we're like, it's interesting. Like, what do I do? Where do I get started so that I don't get sent to other
Yeah.
groups and get sent to the back of the room and
Yeah.
go to 10 of them? And,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you tell them so that they can get started correctly?
Well, I just generally tell them, because I get the question all the time, like they're not sure what to do. And I was there, I wasn't sure. I said, just focus on learning as much as you can and meeting as much people as you can. It'll come. Just don't go jumping into something that you don't really know enough about, because you can really get burnt, and you can, have a bad partner, buy a bad deal. Just make sure you learn as much as you can and meet as many people as you can to figure out what your overall plan is, and take the time to know exactly what you want. And, your life changes. Like what I wanted last year is probably quite a bit different than what I want this year and 5 years from now and 5 years ago, or that's a 10-year gap of things. And life is, changes all the time for everyone. So just make sure it fits within your goals. And, I'm here to help people. If they have questions, I'm available. I love talking about real estate and boats, so I could sit here all day, every day, and until the cows come home or the rooster crows. One of those.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'm sure there's other analogies about, until the fish swim home and those
Yeah,
things like
or
that. Sorry.
the boats or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the captain doesn't go down with the ship. That doesn't work.
That's a lie. Good to know.
Doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I think, that's so important. I think you've probably seen this too, the angst about getting into deals and not doing the due diligence that you need to,
Yes.
and not catching up with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
don't fall in love with the deal. Just like we were saying earlier, sometimes the best deals are the ones that you didn't do. Make sure the market is correct. The property is going to be the property. You can't move the property unless it's a mobile home. That's a whole different deal. But,
even so,
even so,
I didn't ask, but maybe, we got right into it today. Tell us a little bit about, your team, the company, stuff like that. Maybe a little bit of the background, just briefly.
Well, for the most part, I work with a few different teams, and I focus on capital raising and investor relations, and also fill in wherever I need. I can be wherever I am. If I'm on the boats and stuff, for the most part, there's a lot of things I can do, like help with the raise capital, or help organize the mortgage, organize insurance, do a lot of stuff on the back end. I cannot guarantee that I'll be able to go and walk the property, but I can help do the due diligence and the underwriting, basically whatever needs to get done to help, whatever they need, wherever I can add value. And that's something that I recommend. If you're just starting out, see where you can add value to other people. And then if you're around these people doing what you want to do, you'll eventually start doing it. It'll be just a matter of time.
100%. You're in a perfect spot working with those different teams.
Yeah.
And just to call this out clearly, that, you become such a broker of information. Someone that gets to learn so much information, especially you're talking about the networks. And so, whether that is for boats or yachts, or whether that's about investing, not to be thrown off at all, but, having so much knowledge in like all of these different pieces. So investor relations, understanding the models, super cool. So anything else that you want to mention before you tell us where people can find you if they want to talk about the topics you've talked about?
For the most part, I want to just keep hammering home that, people should just keep networking, just get out there, just do one more, just keep in mind that consistency beats intensity. Just keep showing up, show up early and show up often. It works on the boats, works in real estate, works in anything. If you're the first guy there and you just keep showing up, somebody will give you an opportunity to something. They might give you a broom to sweep the floor, but you got to start somewhere.
That's right. Yeah, no, I love it. That is always good advice. Keep showing up.
Yeah.
Awesome, Scott. Thank you so much for being here. Tell us where other people can find you to connect with you.
Well, if people want to find me, they can find me at investwithscottkidd.com. That's my website. It has all my social media and everything on there. Be glad to, if you guys need any help or anything, just feel free to reach out.
Perfect. I'll have all these in the show notes, and don't be shy. Reach out to Scott. Like I said, his information will be there. Yeah, Scott, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Path to Passive. We love connecting with our listeners and those on the path to architecting their wealth and improving their lives. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see in future episodes. Get in touch with us through email or Instagram. See you next week for a new episode.